Hey everybody, and welcome back. Right, well, as I mentioned, our plan is to get this stripped so that we have an empty set of cases to use for measurements and things, and also so I can see what we need to order for it. So I don't really think I have anything to tell you before we start. I seem to be having a lot of senior moments recently. I just got an order of two 1 foot pieces of tubing, and I have no idea why I've ordered them. I measured them and I thought, no, I don't know what I bought that diameter and wall thickness tube for. Two 12-inch pieces. I thought maybe I'd ordered them for the headstock or the swinging arm, but it's not the size I want. So unless I just clicked on the wrong row, because I also just bought myself a 12-inch set of calipers, and when they arrived, they're left-handed ones. So in other words, you know, when the head's facing you, it's round that way. So a minor annoyance, but not enough for me to send them back. So anyway, as I say, I've squirted some Croyle here and there. I've noticed a few of the nuts and bolts on here are loose, and as you'll see when we get the carb, somebody's put a 1/4-inch bolt or something in there. They must have stripped the threaded part. So anyway, we'll get started. We'll strip it down. I'll put stuff to soak and degrease and what have you, so that when we get round to working on it, it'll be nice and clean. So as I say, can't think of anything else. Snow's starting to go, but only slowly. Alright, let's do this engine. Alright, I'm going to sit down to do this. Actually, my knee's hurting a bit today. Right, we're going to start the head. Get down to, take the head, well, rocker boxes, head, carbs, barrel, pistons off. Then we'll do the timing side. And start to take the gearbox internals out. Then we'll swing it round. Take the clutch off. I want to get the drive side off, the chain case and everything, but leave the sprocket on because I want to get a much more accurate measurement to the sprocket to the center line, which we can do when it's part stripped. So let's start with the rocker feed, which on this one is actually through bolts. Now that one's loose to start with. There we go. One dome nut. I'll put the dome nut on that so I know which bolt that is. Whoops, more fingers and thumbs this morning. We've just been and done our income tax. For those of you at home, they don't have a PAYE system here. You don't just get your tax. Well, you get your taxes taken out of your wages, but it doesn't seem to be calculated at all, because everybody fills in a tax return, and then you either have money to pay or you get money back. And the thing that's always intrigued me is so many people think of it like found money, you know. Oh, I'm going to buy so and so when I get my tax return. And I always think to myself, well, you know, if they charge you the right amount of tax to start with, you could have been saving that money and actually made some interest on it. But it's not too difficult. I always used to do it myself. But anyway, just some minor gossip. Alright, here we go. Now then, I've already turned this to top dead centre, so that at least one cylinder, there's no pressure on the valve gear. But of course the rocker boxes go across, they don't do one cylinder. they do both cylinders, so we're going to have a little bit of pressure there. Ooh. Of course, as always when you're buying an engine like this, it's partly pig in a poke. We're hoping that's been screwed in a bit cross-threaded. The threads look alright except the very top one. So we'll keep our, oh, that was finger tight. We'll keep our fingers crossed that they're going to be alright. Okay. As I mentioned, there's a big head steady goes on the Triumph, so there is that there. So we've got 2 bolts there, 2 bolts underneath, and we've got 2 Phillips head screws also. Phillips head screws. Oh, look at that, got everything out except, excuse me, except the Phillips. Oh, what have I done with that? There it is. Excuse me again. Right, so what I've done is I've got 2 trays, one marked exhaust, one marked inlet. Yeah, that's actually got a square nut on it. That's a stud. Somebody's forced a square nut on it. Yeah, look. One of the reasons why I don't like working on British bikes here. Well, not that I don't like working on British bikes, but one of the things that makes them so difficult is people have kept forcing things on the wrong fittings and where we go, what size is that? And of course with some of the threads, BSW ones and the unified course, every now and again, well they're fine as well, you hit a thread's pitch that's the same as the BSW one or the BSF one, and of course as we mentioned before they're a different angle, so people think, oh, that will go on, and they just force it. It's not so bad when it's nuts and bolts, but or even there where it's a stud, I can replace that stud, but where it's being screwed into a casting, then of course they can just completely screw it up. Right. Now of course, unlike the Beza single, this actually has separate camshafts for exhaust and inlet. Oops. So there's our push rods, there's our rocker box. So let me take this other one off, and I won't bore you with duplications. I'll just show you this though. Somebody's put an 11/16 nut on there. Those threads are completely knackered. Great. Next thing I'll take off is the carbs. I could just pull the head off with them on, but it's easy enough to work on them here. And this isn't a 1/4" bolt they've put in here, it must be 6mm because it's a 10mm spanner that fits it. These are buggers to get at. I might have to try and take these off with the engine in the frame so you had stuff above you here. These are 626, so 26mm. I'll have to have words with people about what size they recommend for the single carb on a trials bike, but if it's 26 we could always use one of these. If they're in decent condition, that is. Right, so there's carb off. Now, this has two separate manifolds here, and they're held on with Allen bolts, one above, one below, offset like that. There's even a little cutout. So let me take the other carb off and these manifolds off, and then I'll show you the actual manifolds, and then we'll pull the head off. There's the manifolds. They have a balance pipe, and you can see there's a cutout there to get at that Allen bolt. This side there's enough room to get in. See, it's got a stud. This side it's just stripped out completely. That's why they put a bolt through. They didn't even put a 5/16 through. So okay. I better take the head mounting, the other four studs out, hadn't I? We'll put them. Now we'll put them in there. Loose. And off comes the head. Well carboned up. So we'll look into that. Obviously we don't want dome pistons like that in our trials bike. Here's the two pushrod tubes. Over the years they did several mods to these, so when you get your gasket set you've got to make sure you get the right sealing rings for these. Now let's see, we'll get a gasket set, but we are going to use Z1000 pistons, and according to Don Morley, the man with the beard, that gives us a nice low compression. And my friend Bob, I might have told you all this before, but my friend Bob, who I built the 350 for and who has friends in the UK that ride trials on these, the first thing they said to him was, tell your friend he's got to run really low compression on it. So I presume that's why Don Morley used those pistons. Great big chunk of fin broken out there. Great big chunk of fin broken out the front on the other side. This piece is broken out there. So not brilliant cylinders to start with. Okay, so there are those. And that's the inlet one. That's the exhaust one. Right, let me see, I might zoom you in a bit here. And there's, if you like, the tappet block. There's the cam followers, it's just held in with a little there. These multi-point nuts, memory serves me rightly, when you buy them, They're Jaguar nuts. Isn't that interesting? So, been a bit bumped about this engine. Right, let me take those out and then we could pull the barrel off. Right, I got all of the nuts off. You just use an ordinary 12-point ring spanner, and there's enough, you don't have to jiggle it to get them out. There's enough space to screw them right off the studs and they'll come out. Little magnet's handy to get them out with though. Alright, so now that will come off there. And there's the tappet, in their tappet block. Now I think when I get the alloy barrels, he does tappet blocks for them as well. Actually, I'm not sure, looking at the barrels, whether they didn't have cast-in pushrod tubes. I'll have to go back and look at the photograph that Charlie sent me. Alright, so anyway, that's the barrels off. They are heavy. It's quite a saving with the alloy ones. So now we will get these pistons off. And then we'll start taking all this off. I noticed there's a big Phillips bolt in there. It's like an Allen bolt head, but it's actually Phillips. So okay, let me get something to get these circlips out with. Now these circlips are just the plain ones, they don't have any ears or anything for you to get hold of, but there's a little slot there that you can actually get in behind them. I'm not worried about stuff in the crankcase and everything, because basically all this stuff is going to be thrown away and the engine's going to be split. Come on now. Oh, stop messing about. There it is. So that just comes out like that. Right, we'll keep them. Just because I don't want things rolling about all over. So, I'm not sure about... Yeah, I'm going to have to warm the pistons up to get the gudgeon pins out. So, there's nothing special to that. Won't take time up showing that. So let me get the pistons off. Yes, you're right, I was pushing the pin the wrong way. So, I warmed that one up and it just slid out. So now let me do the other one. So there's the pistons off. Oh, there's no play in that whatsoever. Good. Okay, let's start taking the timing side off. Right then, I can see one Allen bolt. Phillips, 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 Allen, Phillips, 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 missing Phillips. Oh, that actually looks like the wrong type completely. And then a couple there are missing as well, so let's this is splined, by the way, for those of you used to seeing me take the cotter pins out, the BSA ones. I think I've seen some of these with a nice little alloy kickstart, rather than having to get a great big foldy out one. Hope so. And this one is 5/16 I discovered. Let me get a screwdriver to just open that slightly. Right, I've thread that little bit and levered it from behind. So there's that off. Okay, take this off. Obviously somebody's rewired it at some time. Very handily putting the same two colours on, so how they know which is the left and right points. Okay, so what have we got here? Well, keep your fingers crossed they're all going to come out like that. Where should we put these? I'm going to replace these with Allen's, so we'll just stick them down there out the way. I'm not... In fact, I think I can buy these in sets, so I'll know I've got all the ones the right lengths. Let me just take these out. Right, that's got them all out. They did all come out easily. They were pretty chewed up. Yeah, what's that screwed in there? Let's see if we can find an edge. Obviously you don't lever these off with a screwdriver, but if the edge is proud, then you're not on the actual mating phase. So you can sometimes just give it enough to break the seal. And I've definitely got them all out. Yep. Just be patient. I can see by the here that someone's used, I don't know what kind of sealant, but you know, you'd think they'd think on and put cast a couple of little bosses in, wouldn't you? That's good. There we go. Still. Well, there's some water got in there. There's the twin plunger oil pump driven off the inlet camshaft, and you can see from there, but you'll notice that the diameter of this is less than the diameter of that. It's just the same as all the others. The scavenge side pumps more oil than the feed side does. Alright, so alright, so there's one idler gear. There's our crankshaft. You can see the silicone that they've used on that. Now there's a special tool to get these two pinions off here, which I do have. It's actually a tool that pulls them off and then pushes them back on. So let's see if we can size is that. See if is that the right size socket? No, that's true. Hold on. Alright, this seems to get a better grip. And they have the little dished lock washers. So we'll get a bag to put all the oil pump stuff in. And there we go. You see that? That's eccentrically mounted so that as that goes round, it goes up and down. Fits into there, and the reason, well, it doesn't slide now because it's stuck, is because, of course, not only does it go up and down, but it goes side to side. So as that goes round like that, this slides across and takes the two plunges up and down. Okay. Plastic bag. Plastic bag. I've squirted some Croil on them. Let that soak in a little bit. We'll take this off. There's only one screw left in here. Oops. Now I did a T100C for a chap a few years back, which had the energy transfer ignition system on it, and we replaced it for a 12 volt alternator and the capacitor ignition and everything, so that was much better. And he had a problem with his kickstart coming loose, and he cured it with this by putting a very thin shim in. And what it was there is no gasket here, but very often when you buy Triumph gasket sets, they come with a gasket. So of course he'd put the gasket on and it moved this out far enough that the kickstart was disengaging, and he cured it by basically putting the shim on the thickness of the gasket. So well, you'll also notice here with the Triumphs, the clutch cable goes in the top. You'll see it when we take this off, but it goes in and there's a piece that screws in there with an adjuster. Can't remember. Yeah, that's all bummed up, whether the gear change comes off with the outer cover or whether it stays in. It's really gummed up there. We'll put that on, leave it to soak. Actually, I'll leave all these to soak because it's virtually lunchtime, so I'll be back shortly. Right, I've had a cup of tea and a sausage and a bun, and I just gave this a little bit of a yank. And the gear change mechanism comes off here. There's the quadrant. So there's the clutch mechanism. It's like the one on the Enfield, or some of the Enfields, in that there are 3 ball bearings in those dimples, and when you pull this, the ball bearings ride out of the dimples, and so this whole thing moves that way. And there's the thing that pushes on that, and your clutch push rod gets pushed in. Well, that's still loose. Little scored, probably get a new one of those. Like the BSA ones, it's very thin. Probably flexes terribly in there. Alright. No kickstart spring. That's rusty, so that means there's water got in there as well. I'm glad I knocked him down on the price. Same type of oil connection as on the BSAs. Let's see if we can take that off. Hardly enough room to... Probably one of these things where you get the spanner on. Well, at least it's loosened it. Get it back off. These pipes have probably been bent slightly. So we'll have to look into that. It's like those places where I put my hand and I can't get it back out. I knew that was going to happen. It sort of clicked on there. See, I couldn't quite get the flats on enough all the way, so it was only part way it was going to come off and damage the nut. But now we're alright because there isn't much pressure. Now, is the stud coming out? Yeah, the stud's coming out, not the nut. But we'll fix that when we put it back together. This won't come out of my fingers. Alright, you don't want to see this. Alright. This bundle of stuff is the extraction and replacement tool for these. Now, these 2 nuts are left-hand thread. This one is an ordinary right-hand thread, and then we have to get a puller in there for that. So we'll take the 2 camshaft ones off first. And as I say, these are left-hand threads. I've put a piece of alloy rod through the small ends to hold them in place. Okay, so there's one. And there's the other. Whoop. And that of course now will come out, so we can put that there with that. Now then, not only is the camshaft threaded, which that nut was on, but the actual timing pinion here, that's threaded as well. And that is what that screws onto for our extraction. Then when you put them back on, that screws on there. There's 2 different ones. That one's a smaller one. Yeah, that one goes on there. And that. So you put that on. You put that on there, and then when you tighten this nut, it pushes it back on. Right, so well, there's a little thing that goes in there as well, look, so you don't damage the end of that. Okie doke, so we screw that in there. It's a long time ago that I used these, because as I say, I don't particularly like Triumphs, and I certainly don't like doing Triumph restorations, because I don't know, it's almost as if what I'm going to do is screw this on like that, screw that up to find out when I'm getting to the actual shaft. I used to hold that little piece on. Yeah, right, that's touching. So we'll pull that off. And we can put that on there. Put that there. Hold that while we screw it on. And then, I mean, this isn't on some tight tape or anything like that, but they do have to be pulled off. So there it is, because it's actually keyed on. So there's our exhaust one going in there. So I put the exhaust nut in there. Where does it do with the inlet nut? That's around somewhere. Okay, now then, see, that went in there. We don't need that with this. There's that well-known smell to a lot of us of really old oil. Oh, this one's on tighter. I'm going to have to get something to grip that. You'd think they'd put some flats on. Maybe I should mill a couple of flats onto that for future use. Right, let me get something to grip that. Alright, that should do. There it is. There we go, there's that one off there. Now a tiny little key. See what? If you can see that. A very short key. We'll go in there. That will come off there. Now then, I think I modified something to work in this, if memory serves me right. Get that gunge. I think it was that sort of steering wheel puller or something. So let's take that off. I'm not sure if that's the same size. So let me check that. I've just noticed on this, the end of the little eccentric pin that drives the pump is actually stamped left hand. So that one goes in there. Alright. Now this is an ordinary right hand one. So I've put the crankshaft round the other way. Oops. There it goes. Alright. So now let's find the puller. Well, here's a turn up for the book. I was just poking behind there so that I could get this puller on, because I'm pretty sure that's the one I used on the Triumphs. And when I get this in behind here, that comes off. It's keyed on, but there you go. So let's get that keyway out of there. Not keyway, we'll get the key out. Now the camshafts are held in with these two plates, and I mentioned this before, something I dislike. To me it's manufacturers saying screw the owner, but what they've done to lock the plates onto the screws is there's a little notch in the plate, and then they peen the screw over slightly into there, or put a punch on. So I've got 4 places. Now I just checked these actually with a screwdriver, and that one's tight. That one's tight, but the punch mark is not at the little slot. On one of these, that one, the punch mark is right there, and that one's actually loose, it'll come out. So what we're going to have to do is say, first of all, I'll get that key out, and then we're going to have to, I don't know. That one, as I say, the punch mark is not where the slot is, so I'm presuming that will come out. That one will come out. I've got to try and drill just that little bit. Actually, a starting drill might just get that tiny little bit out. So we shall see. Taking the key out, and now we have this big piece in there. It's got a chamfer on the outside. It's very similar to the one on the drive side on the BSAs, I suppose. Okay, it's quite nasty in here. Let's try these things. Let's see what we can do here. So we know this one comes out. Let's see if we can see that, where they popped that. They didn't make that good a job. So that goes in the inlet side. So I've put a starter drill, as they tend not to wander. Just wandered a little bit there and snapped. Ah, would you believe it? Look at that. It moved, it broke that off, so hopefully you can still buy these. Bugger. Okay. It worked, but broke that off, look. Well, we'll have to bronze that back together if we can't get there. And there is our inlet camshaft. Intake camshaft, depending on how you like to put it. Well, that has really annoyed me now. Let's see if I do this. This one, as I said, the spot isn't actually by the little slot that it should lock into. Try the impact on that. I wonder if I can just punch that back very slightly with a thin punch. Anyway, let me get the impact driver out to try that one. Right, well, let's see what we can do here. I'm just going to use the hand impact. Oh, it moved. Oh! Okay, that's that one. See if we can move this before we even try doing anything else with it. Yep, that moved as well. Sorry. I wonder if that other one would have just been alright. Anyway, there's that. There's the little key. There we go. There we have our exhaust camshaft. Alright, so I think what we'll do now is turn it around, take the drive side off, and then we'll make some measurements of that sprocket, and then we'll take the gearbox apart. Alright, what's going on, you're thinking? Well, when I'm doing something like this, I video a lot. So I was working away, got it all stripped, and when I went to edit it, I had like 2 hours of video. So I'm splitting it into two. So next week's is ready as well. But there's a couple of things I wanted to mention, and so I came out today. I've just fallen flat on my back on the drive. It's just like a sheet of ice. We've got a bit more snow, and we have a slopey bit, and everything seemed fine, and it just bang. So that didn't help, and then I've come in here, and the heating's gone off. I checked the gas. It's just packed up working, so I'll have to get somebody to come and see that. So I have a couple of things to mention. Okay, when I took the camshafts out, the exhaust camshaft drives the rev counter, and I checked the parts book. I've had a look at the parts book and that, and I've literally got to take this apart, and then the little drive piece comes out of this end, and there's a bolt that holds it in, so I'll get that done. Also, at the end of the inlet camshaft, I'm telling you this because you'll maybe think of it, any of you Triumph guys. The end of the inlet camshaft drives a little disc valve. It's a breather. So there's a disc valve, and there should be a spring in there. Hang on, looks as if, where's the spring gone? No spring in there. So there should be a little spring behind that disc valve. It locks in onto the end of the camshaft and has a couple of little holes in it. Alright, so let me put that in there with the inlet camshaft. What else? Oh yeah, when I was looking at the parts book, not the parts book, sorry, the manual, I was looking at the couple of pages that show you that extractor tool for the camshaft pinions. And I'd never noticed, shows you how observant I am, it actually screws on to, well, not that one. Yes, it is. That's the crankshaft pinion. That's got about 3 threads on it. Actually, they're damaged on this one, but it would screw on there and pull that off as well. So why did I never notice that before? What else did I write down? Oh yeah, and finally I checked the 500 gearbox is different, and it does all hold onto the outer cover. The 650 gearbox doesn't, the 500 does. So anyway, I've been cleaning stuff up. You'll see the rest of this strip down next week, and that's a long video as well, but I couldn't really see any way to break that up, so there you go. So that gives me a chance to get some other stuff done, including fixing the heating. So until next week, stay safe, don't fall over, and enjoy yourselves.